Welcome back to Control Alt Dev, the podcast where we press control on the hype, alt on the narrative, and dev on what's really happening in tech and AI. So coming up on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 10 dirty secrets that big tech firms don't want us to hear about.
I love it, Sean. and I guess it's where our wives generally think we're having an affair with AI, I think.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And before we go any further, Paul, what actually is a GPU?
That's a great question, Sean, and I'm glad you've asked me. A GPU is basically, I don't understand it. I don't know what it is, Sean. Can you tell me?
Yeah, it's obviously we've got CPUs in computers and GPUs are the next sort of level. Well, actually, there's a TPU as well, but a GPU is typically found rendering graphics in games, video editing, animation, training AI models, but I think a TPU does that better. But originally built for graphics, so the strengths are that it does thousands of simple tasks at once, and that really, in a sense, is what a GPU is. But it eats electricity, overheats instantly, and spends all day placing millions to one bets on maths problems, and that's really what the GPU is.
Okay, so for the listener, why are we talking about GPUs? What's the topic of today's podcast, Sean?
So the topic today is exposing the hidden costs big tech firms don't want Britain to see.
Wow. I feel like an investigative journalist. I think the reason I'm being so, I don't know, like quite fun today is Sean's put a lot of effort into this podcast and done loads and loads of research. And I think the stuff that he shared with me is going to be really invaluable. And it's things that as users of AI and, you know, like kind of maximizing, it's the stuff that we don't necessarily think of or hear about. So hopefully there's going to be some nuggets in there. And I'm sure it's going to be of value to the listener. I'm really looking forward to diving straight in looking at the infrastructure behind the AI, you know, the power, the water, the grid strain, the politics of it all as well, and who's actually paying for it. So, okay, so for first dirty secret is AI is clean tech.
You know, we've all heard the common user saying it's in the cloud, and this is kind of how AI has been portrayed as well. But as you and I know, because we've obviously had to look into this subject, is it good for the planet? Is it better than factories and smokestacks from long ago?
Yeah, and I think with the research you shared with me, there was something in there that caught my eye, was that like a single large AI model can use as much electricity as 100 homes in a year. And, you know, the hyperscale data centers that they're having to build draw the equivalent of 100,000 homes a year. So it's kind of, this is usage at scale, isn't it? This is a huge resource requirement.
Yeah, and that's not just in California or other towns in the US. This is happening right here in Britain right now. So on a grid already creating like a 1970s conservatory roof, it's you know, it's here. We know that Keir Starmer's already investing in lots and lots of data centers in the UK, and this is what we're talking to you about today, guys. It's all about the costs of this type of technology.
Yeah, and the International Energy Agency, they now classify like AI data processing as an emerging heavy industrial load. So like almost gives, you know, visions of the industrial age, doesn't it? In terms of like it's classified in the same way as things like steel making and aluminium smelting, which is insane, isn't it? When you think of it as a lightweight tech.
And here's the real punchline, really. The future may be digital, but the footprint is industrial.
I like it.
So dirty secret number 2, the cloud is magical. People say, don't worry, it's stored in the cloud. Like it's floating above Heathrow on a rainbow, Paul.
I'm in a silly mood today. Yeah, so the cloud, the cloud that people imagine in their minds is just a huge warehouse full of humming servers, fans, cooling pipes, diesel backup generators, you know. This is an industrial scale operation, isn't it? That's what people need to think about, not a shiny, floaty, light, you know, environmentally sound cloud.
Exactly. And those warehouses, they're popping up everywhere, in Slough, in Didcot, in Waltham Cross.
Yeah, and the parliamentary briefing warns UK capacity may need to double or triple by 2030 to support AI demand alone.
So when someone says my photos are safe in the cloud, what they actually mean is they're in a giant metal shed in Slough using the same electricity as a small town.
Yeah, so the cloud isn't mystical. It's not this like imaginary thing. It's logistical, isn't it? It's about a delivery mechanism.
Absolutely.
Should we move on to dirty secret number 3?
Data centres bring jobs. So councils love saying this, and even the government are saying this as well. This will create jobs.
But the reality is very different. Once a data center is up and running, once it's operational, it maybe only needs 30 permanent staff. And hyperscale sites are even more automated. So this isn't an industrial warehouse that then requires thousands of people to operate. The whole existence of it is it's automation, it's servers, it's the humans are there to monitor and to maintain. They're not there to do anything other than ensure that it's online, if that makes sense. And a lot of the jobs as well are even remote. So yes, a data center does create jobs, but it doesn't mean that they're in that locality. They're not local jobs for local people, if we want to put our League of Gentlemen hat on.
Yeah, and I would question if it is 30 people that are required, because they might go in there saying, yes, it's 30 permanent jobs, but reality is potentially 5 to 10 people could probably run that data center. Because as you quite rightly say, unless something goes wrong with a server, etc., it's just pulling that server out, putting a new one in. There's nothing really that tricky to do. So I would question the 30 permanent jobs, but a building using the same as electricity as 100,000 homes, that is phenomenal.
And I think the other thing is that that it's the employment equivalent, isn't it, of putting Wembley Stadium on standby. The people need to think about it in these kind of scales. Is like it doesn't need humans to run.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Domino's creates more employment and better garlic bread. That's what I would say. I think I'm in a silly mood now.
Yeah, that's all right. It's Friday, isn't it? It's Friday morning, Sean. It's wet and dreary. It's almost Christmas. So I think as well, like some sites, like I know you've pulled out one in particular, like Ravenscraig, is what you told me about, is they do promise thousands of jobs, but they're tied to renewables and industrial regeneration, aren't they?
Yeah. So the question is, where's a data center a boost, and when is it 3 jobs and a headache? Dirty secret number 4: AI is free once you have it. So people think buying AI is like buying Netflix.
Yeah, it's more like buying a heated indoor swimming pool, really, with running costs.
Yeah, lovely in theory, financially ruinous when the bill lands.
Yeah, and even SaaS companies are rolling back unlimited AI because the usage costs wreck their margins.
Yeah. AI doesn't magically save money, it moves it.
Yeah, and there's lots of way the money moves, but one clear example is you taking the money that you would invest in the payroll, the people, and putting it into the power bill.
Yeah. And that's before you factor in GPUs, APIs, compute credits, storage, uptime, and the one staff member who just plays with prompts.
Yeah. And I think people don't understand the energy consumption every time they prompt. They've got no idea. I think the thing that sparked this, just as a bit of background for the listeners, is me and Sean, when we're thinking of topics, it was definitely one thing around, when everyone was doing the images of like action hero packaging. And then I saw a post where somebody was like kind of picking a fight with that in a justified way about, well, do you realise the energy that's being used just to create these stupid... I mean, everyone was doing it. It was like a trend.
Yeah.
And then that has been in our back burner, hasn't it, Sean? It's like one day we're going to kind of look into this, and that's what we've done to get to this podcast. An interesting thing, what you just touched on as well about the ongoing costs. I was with somebody yesterday, and they're creating a SaaS product, and they have a free tier, and they're kind of like they haven't got an understanding that if they roll this out to thousands, hundreds of thousands of users, and they give the credits that they're giving for free to them to power, because it's all AI powered, it's all LLMs, it could financially ruin their company because someone's paying the cost of the credits of the usage of the LLM, and you're offering it for free at a tier where there's no cost to the end user. Obviously, OpenAI can do it and the LLMs who own the infrastructure, because they have the scale of the other revenues to support it. But when you're a SaaS builder and you're trying to launch something for free that can scale quite quickly and rapidly with lots of AI use, like you say, rolling back the unlimited, the advice is always you need to have hard, like, guardrails built into your product to prevent the fact that somebody could drill up on your own AI accounts tens of thousands of pounds worth of usage.
I'm nodding like a Cheshire cat because we've got Adlister 2 coming out next year, and you're exactly right. It's a SaaS product, so like this is version 2, but we allow the customer to sort of say to AI, I'm putting this product onto eBay, Amazon, TikTok, etc. Here's the title, create me a description, create me an image. And you're exactly right, Paul. If you don't sort of charge a credit mechanism, they're going to totally abuse that. And who's going to pay that cost? Us.
Yeah.
If we don't sort of give them credits, lots of them like do it really well, don't they? Like Canva and Power Director, they give you a certain amount of credits, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the norm.
And like you say, the prompts you've got to be very good with your prompts, haven't you?
Yeah.
I
think the other thing is that, like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, we use tools like Fireflies, we use tools like Notion. They all have, you have to pay for a certain tier to get even AI enabled, and then it's still restricted. It's not unlimited AI. It is like you get a certain amount of credits. We use OpenAI and Codex for some of the things we do. We're constantly topping up credits usage through pull requests and stuff. So it's like, I don't understand why startup founders try and doing all you can eat for free. Because they just don't understand that AI is actually incredibly expensive at scale. It's a micro pence transaction for a prompt. But if your workflow involves accumulation. We've got one at the moment where a client, every time they run their workflow, it's a lot of steps, but every time they run it, it's about it's $1.5. So on the grand scheme, it's not that. But if you roll that across a company and they run it 100 times a day, it's a cost that they need to factor into their budgets. Is that there's a cost to the running of AI. And obviously today's podcast is not, I've deviated a bit, but we're talking about almost like the environmental costs and the energy costs, isn't it? Is what we're talking about. But I think there's a financial thing that we just spoke about where companies need to be savvy about it's not free. And often the other danger that I spoke to somebody about yesterday is often with free, you don't have the data controls. So you are training the model and you are helping to improve it, but at the same time, your privacy is out the door and people just go, I don't pay for it, it's free. Yeah, but you're trading off so much more. So I advise only ever work with paid accounts and set the data controls before you do anything.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So dirty secret number 5, Paul, what is it?
Water. What water?
It is one that probably nobody saw coming. AI eats water.
Yeah, a typical 100 megawatt AI data center uses around 2 million litres of water a day. That's the equivalent to 6,500 households a day.
And England was already facing hosepipe bans in the summer this year, wasn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
That's staggering, isn't it? The south of England, Yorkshire and the Midlands, I remember in the summer this year, they were going on and on and on about hosepipe bans. And now we've got these data centres popping up all over the place.
Yeah, and I think globally, there's a report that you shared with me where data centres consume over 560 billion litres of water a year. And that they're expecting that to double as demand grows. That's a figure you can't even fathom. Like, nobody can picture 560 billion litres. But again, it's stuff that nobody's conscious of. And I think it's also important to say, like, well, why, like, for the listener, like Sean, why is it using water? I think that's a really good question. Where does water come into play?
Great question, Paul. So as we were talking about, these CPUs, the GPUs and TPUs, they're using a tremendous amount of, they're generating a tremendous amount of heat. So obviously what reduces heat? Water, cooling systems, and AI model training and things like that. They're doing per million queries per day. And obviously to reduce that, to cool it down, is water.
Yeah, perfect. So it's a cooling system, it's refrigeration, it's air conditioning, it's all the things that the water's being used for, is to enable the servers to not set on fire.
Absolutely.
It's the bottom line. Okay, should we move on to dirty secret number 6, Sean? Do you want to lead on this one?
So dirty secret number 6 is nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, so in West London, housing developers were told that homes might not connect until 2035. This is connect to the grid because the capacity was being absorbed by the data centres. So you're talking about actual new homes, and their plans are being put on hold whilst there's not a scramble, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but there's a race to build these data centres to keep up with demand. So it's industry, which we sit in, over people, isn't it? And over family and over home housing. So it's a really interesting one, is that there's this level of conflict is probably the best word between, technological advancement and actual basic needs.
Well, I think we've discussed it in previous podcasts. There's a worldwide race. So your phrase on saying it's a race, it is, because who's going to have the infrastructure in place? I think you said NVIDIA have been.
They're now selling to the Chinese, aren't they? That they weren't allowed to do. Yeah. And it's like you've now got a US Chinese, chip wars and AI race. So it's a bit like the Cold War. I mean, they are using the headlines on the, obviously on the sensationalist media are using the word war, because it's almost like the race to the moon, isn't it? Whoever gets there first wins the day, really. So yeah.
So families can't move into their houses because the GPUs got the plug sockets first.
So, and this is the first time, I think, that we found in the research that we've done, and obviously we've done a level of research, but we're not academic professionals. But it's the first occurrence that we found where like AI infrastructure has directly competed with human housing needs. That was the thing that stuck out of us, wasn't it, when you found this thing, Sean?
Absolutely, yeah. So dirty secret number 7, Paul. We're doing it for the community.
Yeah, so doing it for the community. So I think tech companies arrive, don't they, like superheroes, with banners and promises and CGI renderings of happy children.
Yeah, and then they leave the community with noise, traffic, humming substations, no sunlight after 3 p.m.
So this is all a bit tongue-in-cheek, isn't it? But I love the way we've got it delivered. So, yeah, I think the benefits, at the end of the day of AI and infrastructure are global. Yeah,
and the costs are certainly going to be local.
Yeah. It's an interesting. I mean, it goes back to like, I know you've kind of made me think of it like previous podcasts where we've talked about, it's there's jobs, in the next 2-3 years that don't even exist today. They'll be created, and the one thing that I always remember is I was listening to I think it was Stephen Bartlett was talking to, Simon Sinek. I'm sure it was Simon Sinek. And they were talking about the future and AI and all this sort of thing, and he stressed about the energy thing, but he also said that like if you were a college graduate now, or his son or whatever, he would push them into energy. Like that's one of the biggest challenges for humanity is the energy, is the energy consumption that's needed. Definitely more than software development right now. So, yeah.
Totally agree. So, dirty secret number 8. This is fully regulated.
Yeah, so data centers were only designated as critical national infrastructure in 2024. So all the policies and the frameworks and stuff are still catching up. This is so new when it comes to this critical infrastructure.
Yeah, and AI growth zones are designed to speed up approvals, not slow them down.
Yeah, so we're in a classic tech mode, aren't we, where we'll build it first, we'll regulate it later, and we'll explain never. And
I think it goes back to what we were just saying about, the water and, looking at the billions of trillions, maybe billions of water that's going to be used to kind of cool these data centers down. You can't really imagine it, can you? And all these figures are just guesstimates at this time anyway.
Yeah. What I really like about this podcast, Sean, is and it is down to you. is it's just trying to shine a light and get people to think a little bit differently about there's impacts across humanity, there's impacts across society, there's impacts across your local area. Somebody may be living right next door to one of these massive data centers being built and wondering what's going on. And I think it's just understanding that, a society demands, ultimately better technology, Moore's law, all that sort of stuff. We constantly want the next improvement. It's not going to slow down. And it's really internet data centers have always been around, since the dawn of the internet, and we've seen them grow and we've seen them expand, and companies come and companies go. But I think it's the scale of is what we're trying to convey is we've always been aware of the big tech data centers, London, and where we've been to them ourselves personally, carrying a server under our arm on a train and going to show a passport to get access to a rack and then plug it in. That was just after where servers were probably running offices, weren't they, just connected to the local Ethernet. So we've probably lived through it all in our 20, 30 years of tech, but it's now all centralized, isn't it? You ain't going to build. It's going to be very rare that somebody is going to have their own LLM that they build from scratch, that they power from scratch in their own local lab or their own local office like it used to be. You're going to be using one of the big tech data solutions, and they're going to have their own data centers, just like Google. We haven't even touched on the current giants, Google and Amazon, but what they're having to do to compensate with AI to keep up is like it's on steroids. That's the thing we're trying to communicate, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're all racing to sort of outdo each other, aren't they? I think you mentioned, what did you mention came out yesterday?
In the circles that I'm in, it's being seen as a response to. So I think we had Tina Cook on, who was basically raving about Gemini 3, justifiably. I was with some people, again, in the pub last night, and one guy was just in love with Gemini. Like, it's the best thing. He stopped using chat. He's gone fully into Gemini, Google Cloud. And then, today, or yesterday, I think it was, OpenAI have just released 5.2. And in the industry, it's seen as like a direct response, if that makes sense, to Gemini 3, because Gemini 3 is so good, especially Nano Banana. If you haven't played with the imaging tool that Peter Lowe talked about, it's insane. But it almost feels like I'm using my hands now and no one can see, literally it feels like that, advantage to Google, advantage to Anthropic, advantage to, OpenAI, and they're kind of like all one up in each other. And that's how 5.2 is being perceived. Is that it's come out as a direct strategic response to Gemini 3, if that makes sense. Whether that's true or not, that's the opinion of like the community.
It's got to be, isn't it? To try and keep up with the Joneses, you've got to do as good as the other AI system, but then obviously then try and take it forward again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this race again. We're talking about this race again. This is it, isn't it?
Well, whoever has the most users wins, don't they? At the end of the day, it's as simple. Economics just is true, whatever the industry, and and then the analogies from history are, okay, the race to get onto the moon, and it was, I'll get my history wrong, but I think it was 69. But the Cold War, and it's nation states fundamentally getting behind tech companies that are actually bigger than the government. If you want to get really sinister, it's like I'll totally segue here because I think this is like shocking. Is there's a drama on Sky and it's on Now TV, and I will get the title of it. I apologise, but it's basically 4 tech leaders on the top of a mountain, and they are the equivalent of like Sam Altman. They're the equivalent of like Zuckerberg, and they're drinking champagne and they meet for a poker weekend. And whilst they're doing that, like the AI is like being used to generate just complete lies across the planet, and it's ending in like, conflict and wars and governments being overthrown, and they're kind of talking about stocks. And it's well worth watching. It's I had to turn it off the first time because I thought it was too real. I was like, I can see this happening. But yeah, in the pub last night, I was talking about it, and it's the sheer infrastructure demands, the government politics behind it, the backing that it needs to and I think for Britain, where we sit, or the UK, whatever you want to call it, is in in power, government and Labour, and I think they're having to respond as well because there's pressure from all sides. Like we want to be in Europe, in the continent, we want to be one of the leading tech countries, and the way to do that is you have to have the infrastructure. You can't be a competing world power in 5 years if you haven't got the infrastructure that's going to power most of the world. Does that make any sense? So it's kind of that's why there's so much investment. That's why there's conflict with housing. That's why there's other priorities. So
we have mentioned that previously. I think it was Nvidia, wasn't it? It was going to spend billions of pounds in the UK, and I think that has been accepted by the British Parliament. So so what we're trying to discuss here, listeners, is really what the ramifications of that will be. You know, Paul and I are not suggesting for 1 minute that this is not good for the economy. Of course it is, but it's just obviously the economic issues that this will create just naturally, really, which is...
I think it's awareness, isn't it? Like I keep talking about, like, we're not these master podcasters, you know, this is episode 14. We kind of get together, we have a chenwag and we go, what can we talk about this week? And this was a topic that came up. And we're like, do you know what? It's a different format. We're talking through our little cheeky list of dirty secrets and all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like things that me and you genuinely went, wow, we didn't know. We didn't have any awareness of these data centers being built and all this. And we've educated ourselves. And then we come to the conclusion that we're like, actually, it's making really good. We often say we wish we'd recorded the planning conversation because it's probably better than the podcast.
Yes.
So apologies to listeners for that. But
so we'll carry on. But it's we're talking about the economic. We can talk about the environmental issues. This is what it's all about today. So, dirty secret number 9. Then, Paul, it's just for the applications.
Yeah, so people think of data centers and they think it just runs like a TikTok filter, or it just runs like, the tech that they use the most, if that makes sense, like the most accessible tech. Yeah,
I mean, they also, obviously it's running surveillance systems, border controls, predictive policing, defense AI, and sensitive national data sets.
Yeah, I mean, it's Big Brother run on these GPUs that we've talked about in data centers, isn't it?
Yeah. And obviously, it's getting an upgrade all the time.
Yeah. So I think the point of that is it's not just your social network, is it, that's using it? It's every part of current human life and central government life. And it's, like you say, it's getting an upgrade. It's getting more power. It's getting more powerful. It's getting more independent thought as well.
Yeah, and just to jump in there, GPUs demand so much electricity that West London halted housing projects due to a grid strain. The National Grid has warned about capacity shortfalls, and councils are being overridden on planning decisions. So it's industry first, environmental second, and that's the subtext. So, dirty secret number 10. It's all worth it, Paul.
Ooh, Sinners, we need some music there. Dun, dun, dun. So, I mean, there's no doubt, is there, that AI is and can transform medicine, climate modelling, logistics, accessibility, like how we develop as a human race, how we develop for the future. There's no doubt about the benefits, is there?
Yeah, and only if the infrastructure isn't quietly wrecking the future, we're trying to improve.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that AI is not magic.
No, it's machinery, massive, hot, thirsty machinery.
Yeah, and someone has to pay the bill as well, don't they, for that?
Yeah, and it won't be Silicon Valley. So news of the week, story number 1, the Greenbelt data centre push. So government overrides local council to approve a 90 megawatt data centre. So first up, Paul, Buckinghamshire, a 90 megawatt data centre has been approved on Greenbelt land, even though the council rejected it twice.
Yep, and it had to go through Westminster because of the national infrastructure. The AI infrastructure is seen as a priority.
So it's a classic government move. Revenue and national strategy first, consequences second. So these data centres are huge money engines that we've been discussing about already. Business rates, jobs, investment and support for the UK's AI economy. So from Westminster's point of view, Greenbelt lands become expandable. If it fuels growth and keeps the UK competitive in AI, as Paul was saying about the world trade war there, but the trade-off is real. Data centres demand massive power, water and land. They constrain local infrastructure, impact the environment, and override local councils who actually said no twice. So it feels less like doing what's right and more like doing what pays.
And yeah, I think it's worth saying at this point, this is from The Guardian, isn't it? So The Guardian newspaper in the UK. So the evidence that we can lean on from that article, I guess, is that, government policy. So the UK has publicly stated that the AI and data infrastructure is seen as a critical national priority, which gives Westminster the power to overrule local planning. That's kind of the first thing that we got from it. The economic incentive. So a single data centre can generate millions in taxes and attract tech investment, so that's politically attractive. The environmental cost is that data centres, as you say, consume so much electricity, the equivalent of tens of thousands of homes, and require huge water volumes for cooling. And then the local democracy is actually bypassed. The council rejected it, but the central government pushed it through anyway. So is it going to see a weakening of local policy? Because ultimately, big central government says, shut up and get on with it. It's what it feels like, isn't it? It's like your opinion doesn't matter because we need this beast to power through, really. So, yeah, national profit, strategic gain outweighing local and environmental concerns. Campaigners warn as well it could push up local energy bills and place huge unexamined strain on the grid.
Yeah, so translation is our Alexas will work faster, but your kettle to make your cup of tea, Paul, will work slower.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I'm not sure about that either.
I love it, though. I love it. And campaigners are now threatening a legal challenge as well because there was no full environmental impact assessment, which is obviously critical to any planning.
Yeah, imagine waking up thinking you're getting a nature reserve and instead you're getting a humming cube full of GPUs. It's a scary thing, isn't it? I mean, if they're going to put these huge warehouses in rural areas, which I presume is what they're suggesting they're going to do, because you can't really put them in urban areas because there's probably no room. So just the complete and utter thought behind that. God, I mean, no wonder councils are getting frustrated.
Yeah. So the second thing that caught our eye in the news this week is NVIDIA announces major UK AI investment. So NVIDIA have said they're going to support the UK with up to £2 billion towards AI computing and innovation zones. So as Sean's already mentioned, in this podcast and previous podcasts, we were waiting for today to actually identify the environmental impact on this. So over to you, Sean.
Yes, the translation, we're bringing GPUs, but you sort out the power bill. So I think this is a source snippet from NVIDIA's newsroom, but NVIDIA will support the UK in scaling advanced AI computing and innovation.
Yeah, and scaling, I mean, it's a recurrent theme in this podcast, but scaling means infrastructure, it means cooling, electricity, water, grid expansion.
And hosepipe bans for the formidable future.
I feel like we're being really negative today. My mood is darkening. The UK is aiming for 6 gigawatts of AI-capable data centre capacity by 2030, which is roughly 3 times what it has today. And these are not, you don't just turn these on tomorrow. These are like huge construction projects. There's a lot of planning goes into this. So just to triple capacity, it's 2025 at the moment. So you're talking 5 years.
Yeah, and the national grid isn't stressed, it's gasping for air like it's just run the London Marathon in a puffer jacket. I love that. But we are
images. It's a very visual podcast this week.
But we are only a small country. This is what we've got to think about, Paul.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And putting these huge data centers in a country our size, it's going to be an interesting, like you say, next 5 years.
But what was really interesting, like you say, we're a small country, but we've always punched above our weight. We've always traded as like one of, economically, I won't call us a superpower, but we're up there. But I think it's this classic. The point of this podcast, more than anything, is to explain the dilemma, isn't it? Because you can be a country that's reliant on external resources, and when we look at natural resources like gas, the Ukraine war, everything else, that showed our dependency on imported things. Look how reliant we are as a nation on oil and imported oil and everything else. I know we have the North Sea and stuff, but so as a basic government, one of your things is to protect natural resources, and AI and its power and our internet. Imagine a world without the internet, like banking, everything. You revert to the dark ages. Do you want to own that infrastructure, or do you want to buy it in? Because you've seen with like events, world events, like things that go on in the Middle East that affect oil prices. You have things that affect the Gulf states, and then you have the Ukraine-Russia war. All these things have a direct impact on people's energy bills. So do you want to get your power imported that's more susceptible to world events, or do you want to become almost a self-efficient, self-reliable a nation as much as you can? And I think that's the dilemma, isn't it? Is do you push forward to advance, or do you buy in?
And I think NVIDIA, talk about oil, I think they are the new oil. Yeah, AI compute is the new commodity, and NVIDIA controls the taps, don't they?
Yeah. And aren't NVIDIA, even if they've come off it now, at one point, I think it was 2022 when OpenAI came out, NVIDIA shot to be the number one most valuable company in the world. So everyone thinks, Alphabet who own Google or Apple, or Microsoft. And then there's day to day, most people actually haven't heard of NVIDIA. They've heard of all the other household names, but they're like, well, why are they the most valuable company in the world? And it's like you said, well, they own the hardware that this thing runs on. Even though we sit in a virtual world, a digital world, there's a physical thing somewhere that's powering it, and that's why they have the valuation that they have. And the I don't know if you're allowed to use the word monopoly, but it seems to be a monopoly on the market, doesn't it? It's like all of the top tech uses it.
Yeah, I think Apple has plateaued, and NVIDIA, because they sell the full systems, not just the chips. I think the DGX server, I think they cost between £300,000 and £400,000 each. So hyperscalers buying thousands of those for the data centers. It's no wonder that they are the number one company at this time. So we're going to now move on to story number 3, the AI Powerhouse Plan, UK to fast track critical AI infrastructure. So it's kind of rolling on what we just said there.
Yeah.
The government UK says Britain will fast track data centers under a national AI strategy.
Yeah, so this is obviously like a third story, kind of backing up all the others. Really, it's the evidence that we found. So, like, they've declared AI growth zones is what you'll start to hear a lot more. And basically, this is alluding to the previous article. This is the special planning zones to speed up approval and power access. So, even though we cited the one specific local council, this is going to roll out nationwide much quicker with the view to accelerate. Because these things don't happen overnight. They need to get on with the construction if they're going to keep the targets and stuff. So, yeah, it's that AI growth zone is something you'll come to hear about. And it ultimately means they can bypass planning, is what we understand it to be in layman's terms.
Exactly that, isn't it? It's fast tracking this type of technology without any U-turns or anyone trying to suggest not to do it. So yeah. It's almost like the government saying, we're doing it anyway, is what you said earlier.
And I think the real critical piece that you found, because again, hats off to Sean for his research, is this came from gov.uk. So this is straight from the horse's mouth, isn't it? And the goal to move more data centers, the goal to create more data centers faster, even if a current planning system isn't ready and the environmental impact assessments aren't followed, is quite a headstrong way to go, because like you say, it's explained later, isn't it? We're going to end up in a world where
build first, worry later. Absolutely, that, isn't it? It is that, and I think we said this in podcast 3. I think the worry is we're going off like a rocket, but no one really has the reins of the horse. We're just sort of galloping away, but we do not really understand what the impact's going to be.
And when you float figures like £2 billion worth of investment, money talks, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Industry. The next story we've picked out, I think we've already covered to a degree, but it's just a bit more detail about where we found it from. So in the Evening Standard, we've always already alluded to it, but this idea that housing's actually physically delayed until 2035 whilst they focus on data centres. So that came from the Evening Standard. It said thousands of new homes could be delayed due to a lack of electricity capacity in West London. And the interesting thing about this is it's not just AI infrastructure competing with homes. You've got things like EV chargers as well, like the national rollout of EV chargers. So what's your take on this one, Sean?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I can't remember the figures, sorry listeners, but the government are supposed to generate so many houses by a certain period in their manifesto. And we're saying here that the actual housing's been delayed.
Yeah.
So we're reaching a point where human housing has been delayed due to AI infrastructure, because that's important to come online faster. And that's a line we've never crossed before, I think, in the UK.
Yeah, and I think I like the cross the line analogy, and once you cross it, it's very hard to walk backwards and uncross it. It's a point of no return, isn't it? If you make a decision not to build any new homes in that area for another 10 years to advance the demands of, effectively the power engine of London, I mean, that's a beast in itself. I can't imagine how that works. It's like, how you can't reverse that decision quickly once you've started, can you? So it will play out, is what we're talking about is here. We're just looking with interest, following all of Sean's research and the conversations we've had. We're watching everything with interest to see how it actually rolls out and how these AI growth zones that we've talked about will actually become to fruition and stuff.
So the hotter the climate, the more water needed. AI acceleration, more GPUs means more water. And this is why environmental groups like Greta are pushing back. And I can totally understand it. But Paul and I, we do love AI. We use it, we build it.
But we also need to talk honestly about the machinery behind the magic, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Because AI isn't a cloud. It's warehouses, it's pipes, it's power stations and water tanks.
And someone has to pay the bill. And often we're talking about not just the financial bill, but the communities living closest to it.
So the big question isn't, should we use AI?
It's how do we build AI in a way that doesn't break the future we're trying to improve?
So thanks for listening to Control Alt Dev. Hit follow, share the episode, and join us next week when we get back to helping you build your businesses with AI.
And always remember, innovation shouldn't come at the expense of people or the planet.
Greta Thunberg once said the climate crisis has already been solved. We already have the facts and solutions. All we have to do is wake up and change. If AI is part of the future, then we have a responsibility to build it responsibly.
Yeah. So ask questions, demand transparency, and make sure communities aren't cut out of the conversation.
If a data centre is planned near you, talk to your councillor, get informed, and make sure the benefits match the costs.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.